وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Probably Bab al-Tawheed, one of the important chapter in the Risala Qushayriya, building your monotheistic belief in Allah Azza wa Jal to the feeling level, because he's saying they will teach you in religious schools, they will teach you about Tawheed and how you prove Allah is one using science and using observation and using logic and what's impossible and what is possible. And he said, like a medical doctor learned in medical school what the disease is, then what's the side effects of the drug, what's the prognosis, or what to avoid and not to avoid. So that's but if he see a patient, he might or might not feel, but if he actually become a patient himself of that disease, then he realized that it's not a joke, and you need to deal with this. Like when I was we were doing the putting the stent, I had severe pain, like somebody was strangling me, and he was just about to squeeze and choke me. So I said, please, give me something, and they gave me some morphine. But that's the real feeling when you are yourself experiencing it. So Tawheed, Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran, وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, your Lord or your God is one God, إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. And the Prophet ﷺ said, believing in Allah Azza wa Jalla, the oneness of Allah and His characters and His attributes and His names, it's important to get you to paradise. And the Prophet told us a story of somebody who became old, and he said to his children, when I die, he never did anything at all except from believing in Allah Azza wa Jalla as one God and has the power to punish. He said, when I die, burn me and crush me and take all my ash and in a windy day and spread it across the land and the sea. And they did that, and Allah Azza wa Jalla collecting them back, the day of judgment. And he stood before Allah Azza wa Jalla and said, why did you do that? He said, I was so embarrassed before you to come back to you because of what I have done. And Allah Azza wa Jalla forgave him. So seeing here that one of the things which is not correct Islamically, but obviously this is a lay person, that he underestimated Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah Azza wa Jalla will collect his atoms. And now having the knowledge, you don't even need the atoms. Allah Azza wa Jalla will use, your atom recycled between you and all the physical world around you and the animals and the plants and everything. So it's not difficult for Allah Azza wa Jalla to recreate you. But your soul and your genes will be there to collect. So Tawheed is to believe that Allah is one, and you need to believe وحدته إذا وصفته بالوحدانية. He's the only one of his kind. We only have one Rooney, but he's sacked now. Yeah. So you describe him as one of his kind, and he is the one you rely on, and he is the one so he's the only one of his kind, and he's he will remain one, and no partner to him, and he is fard, unique, and one. وأصل الأحد from وحدة وقلبت الهمزة الواو همزة. وحدة means by himself, he is the only one. But there's they talk about the origin of the word. And this wahid, you cannot add to him and do not take away from him. So wahid for Allah Azza wa Jal, you can't add to him like, he had grown bigger, or he had lost an arm or a leg. So it's not like when you say a human, one Rooney, because this person might be without a hand, or without an eye, or without a leg, or he has some trouble with his kidneys or his heart, or but Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who He wouldn't lose anything, and you can't add anything to Him, and He will not split. So you can't split Him into, like the Christian did, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. They split into three. He's one tree, split into three branches. Allah is one entity. He doesn't split. And you cannot compare Him to anything else, because He created everything else, and nothing equal to Him or look like Him. The problem with the Christian, they took the say of which exists in Islam, خلق الله آدم على صورته. So the Muslims, they know Allah created Adam as he looked like when He created him 30 years old. It wasn't like an infant and the picture changed. So the image was, this is the image of Adam. But it's not like that Suratullah, to look like Allah Azza wa Jal. That's not the case. But the Christian took that as He created Adam to look like him. Have 2 eyes and 2 ears and blah, blah, blah. And being one, there's no partner, and He doesn't need a partner. And the partner you need probably because you have less skills or less time or less ability. It's not the case with Allah Azza wa Jal. And Tawheed, Allah Azza wa Jal, Shahid Allahu an la ilaha illa huwa. He make Tawheed, He acknowledged the Tawheed or Wahdaniyah, that He is the only one. And Tawheed al-Haqq subhanahu lil-khalq, He made them understand that and receive it and adopt it. And the third one, that the people will start saying La ilaha illallah, there's only one God. So He created the human to be muwahhid, and they started being muwahhid, monotheistic. They started accepting there's only one God. And جملة في معنى التوحيد على شرط الإيجاز والتحديد. And you leave the uniqueness only to Allah Azza wa Jal. So the Noon al-Masri, to explain that, he said that Allah Azza wa Jal, He creates things not because He is in the mood to create things. He's like to create things. Allah creates things because this is the right thing to create. And He doesn't need a way to create. You need to make a brick, to go and get the right earth and the right mud and the right temperature and the right mix. You make the brick, or you make a cake. You get the right ingredients. For Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't need any ingredients. So when Allah Azza wa Jal was, let's say, when the Prophet ﷺ was putting his hand in the water, Allah was creating the water there. It's just coming. Allah didn't bring the oxygen and hydrogen and the spark and then we created the water. He just be there. إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا يقول له كن فيكون. When He wants something, He will say to it be, and it is. So for us, we need the ingredients. For Allah Azza wa Jal, just He create like this in no time. وعلة كل شيء صنعه ولا علة لصنعه. يعني Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't need the instrument or the methods or the addition or the machines to make things. He just make it as He wanted. وما تتصور في نفسك في الله. And anything you come to your mind, Allah is different than that. So saying that the widest word Allah created is the imagination word. You can imagine things which in real life you cannot do it. But even your imagination and how vast your imagination is, you can never imagine Allah Azza wa Jal. So He's beyond the imagination. and ليس لعلم التوحيد إلا لسان التوحيد. To be موحد, just say لا إله إلا الله. So that's that, and now موحد. And that's what's expected from the lay people. You're not expected to go and have all the jargon and all the philosophy and all the. And Junaid was asked about Tawheed. He said, فرد موحد بتحقيق وحدانية بكمال أحديته أنه الواحد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد في الأضداد والأنداد والأشياء بلا تشبيه ولا تكييف. So when you ask a موحد, when you ask the Sufis, they might give you a different description to Tawheed than what you read in the books. So here, when you ask him, he said, you spare Allah Azza wa Jal, you say about him that he is the only one who is one of him, one of his kind, one of him, and his uniqueness is complete, and he is not born, and he isn't given birth to anything, and he has no enemies or anybody oppose him, and nobody equal to him, and he is not similar to what he created, and you cannot ولا تكييف, you don't say how he create, and you cannot give him a picture, and you cannot compare him to anything else. And Allah said in the Quran, ليس كمثله شيء, nothing similar to him, but he hears and he sees. And Junaid, that when you are unable to imagine Allah Azza wa Jal, you try to imagine or think, who is he, what is he, how is he able to do this and this, and you reach nowhere, you are muwahid. When your brain leads you to nowhere, you end having no reply. And this is what Abu Bakr said, will come in a minute. Failing to grasp is the true grasp of Allah Azza wa Jal. You failed, so you are muwahid. So this سئل الجنيد التوحيد فقال معنى تضمحل فيه الرسوم وتندرج فيه العلوم ويكون الله تعالى كما لم يزل. So you cannot draw him, you cannot imagine him, you cannot have a knowledge or a science to describe God. Like all these atheists who will say, oh, you want to prove to me scientifically there is God. No, I can't. This is why I'm muwahid. I can't do that. It's the belief in Allah has to be as it is, without any.
This is very interesting. This is linked to the next talk probably you are going to do about when someone asks Allah to show him how he can resurrect people after they died. How can he bring them back to life?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is so when you get lost in knowing Allah, you are a believer. But if you deny Allah, obviously he's kafir. But if he can't tell you, can't describe him, beyond my imagination, beyond my knowledge, beyond my descriptions, beyond all the science I know, you are a believer. And Al-Husari said, أصولنا في التوحيد, there's 5 basics for Tawheed. That he has no borders, by the way. يكون تضمحل فيه الرسوم وتندرج فيه العلوم ويكون الله تعالى كما لم يزل. So he said 5 things. رفع الأحداث, is not something who happened to exist, appeared, so is nothing happened to Allah Azza wa Jal. He's always there. وإفراد القدم, he's the only one who was always there. There's no start to him. Nothing else after that, but he, the one who created it. So there's nothing there with Allah Azza wa Jal. What happened when time of Harun Rashid, when there were the problem of is the Quran created or not? In the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal said about Isa, كلمته ألقاها إلى مريم. His word. His word. He gave it to Maryam. And then he, what's his name? Dimashqi. Yohanna Dimashqi was a priest. And he said to the Muslims, start talking to them in Damascus, that you say the Quran Kalamullah, Azali, the word of Allah, which is, it's his words, not like, so it is Azali, is no start. So if it's And it's if Isa is the word of Allah Azza wa Jal, then he is azali, he is eternal. So when they say Isa is God or part of God, they are right. So to get out of that mess, Harun Rashid said, everyone say the Quran not created. The Quran is created. Quran makhluk starts is created. So the Quran is created to get out of the mess that Isa is a word from the Quran, so he's created. So what it's like playing with the language, and that took a while before it's actually disappeared. And one of the people who suffered from it was Ahmad ibn Hanbal, because he refused to say the Quran created, and he kept saying the Quran kalamullah. So one of the things is the kalam of Allah Azza wa Jal. There is kalam and there is qawl. The kalam of Allah, the concept, is expressed in a language. So this is, but the if you say to your son, you are not hearing my word, means you're not actually taking the order, executing the order. So the word be, and he became, but it's not a word part of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's just a word is an order to be. إذ قال له كن فيكون مثل عيسى ابن مريم كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. So created from earth, and he said to him be, and it is the order to become Isa ibn Maryam. So that's their problem at that time. They didn't negotiate the difference between expressing in a language and having the concept. And the order here, it's an order given to the body which is created by Allah Azza wa Jal. So Ifradul Hadath, Ifradul Qidam, only Allah is the one who always there, no start, and he doesn't need, if you are muwahhid to Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah has enough for you. You don't need friends, and you don't need even a country. Oh, I'm Pakistani, I'm Lebanese, or I'm Indonesian. No, it's Allah Azza wa Jal. Wherever I am, it's His universe. Wherever I happen to be, it's all belongs to Allah Azza wa Jal. وَنِسْيَانْ مَا عُلِمْ وَجُهِلْ. So whatever I had knowledge given to me by Allah Azza wa Jal, or whatever I don't know, I've never been given to by Allah Azza wa Jal. So it's all Allah caused it, all Allah brought it, or Allah the only one who is there from eternity. And Mansur ibn Khalaf al-Maghribi, he said, I was in a mosque, and Al-Mansur al-Husari were talking about Tawheed. And then he had an nap, and he saw two, he didn't say he had an nap, he said he saw two angels going up to heaven, one of them saying to his friend, this guy talking about Tawheed, and Tawheed is different. So they are not actually talking about Tawheed, but you need to live the Tawheed. وإسقاط الوسائط عند غلبة الحال والرجوع إليها عند الأحكام. وأن الحسنات لا تغير الأقسام من الشقاوات والسعادة. So you need to be muwahhid. You leave the need for things to Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah doesn't need things. So if you want Allah Azza wa Jal to help you, you don't think is how Allah is going to help me, how He will find the right drugs, He will find me the right surgeon, He will find me the right house. Or no, say Allah will help me first off. He doesn't need. He will have ways to help me, and I will not think about it. But when I want to give a ruling about Salah, I need to make wudu, wear new clothing, clean clothing, and pray in a clean area. So that's, you need A, B, C. But when you ask Allah Azza wa Jal for something, don't think about what Allah needs. Allah will find a way. Don't worry about Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah has His own way. وأن الحسنات لا تغير الأقسام من الشقاوة الشقاوة والسعادة. So if you do a lot of good deeds, don't think that this will make me always happy, or will make me rich, or will make me have no disease. Nothing to do. You're doing hasanat because Allah asks you to do it. Whether He will convert it into money in your pocket or convert it into health or not, it's irrelevant. So you're doing hasanat for Allah Azza wa Jal, and you trust Allah Azza wa Jal that you will be rewarded for hasanat somehow in the future or next life or whatever. So الشبلي said توحيد صفة الموحد حقيقة وحلية. حلية الموحد رسما حقيقة وحلية. It's true that Allah is one, and it's a beauty for you to believe Allah is one. So you don't have to rely on anybody else. You only rely on Allah Azza wa Jal. There's no need for the boss, the headmaster, people around you, your wife, your family. والسؤال الجديد عن التوحيد يسأل يكون العبد شبح بين يدي الله تجري عليه تصاريف تدبيري في مجاري أحكامه في لجج بحاري توحيدي. So the توحيد, the true توحيد, that I'm in the hand of Allah Azza wa Jal, and He does whatever He likes, whatever He sees best for me. I don't dictate, oh Allah, make me there's £1 million in the bank, or now $1 billion, now $1 million, have no value. I need a flat in Manhattan, and what's the name of this road by the lake? There's a building by the lake in New York, New York or Washington DC, but there are like 32, I don't know, billion, some ridiculous figures. So you leave it to Allah Azza wa Jal, but without stopping to take the asbab, the means for achieving what we want. But you just are in the hand of Allah Azza wa Jal. بالفناء عن نفسه وعن دعوة الخلق له. So I don't actually exist. Allah Azza wa Jal made us come here. Allah Azza wa Jal arranged this for us, provided us with this building, provided us with the electricity. And subhanAllah, I mean, we had this idea to change the bulbs into LED to reduce 90% of the cost, which is Allah guides you to do things which is really good. So you hand yourself to Allah Azza wa Jal, and don't rely on your good deeds or your business or your job or لقيام الحق سبحانه له فيما أراد منه، وهو أن يرجع آخر العبد إلى أوله فيكون كما كان قبل أن يكون. So Allah is the same. He is as He was before, and the creation didn't give Him any experience. When you might build a house, you get experience. Build another house, you get more experience, and so on and so forth. And بوشجني عن التوحيد قال غير مشبه الذوات ولا منفي الصفات. You don't compare Allah Azza wa Jal to anything, but you don't deprive Allah Azza wa Jal from anything. You don't say, oh, Allah can't see, Allah can't hear, Allah doesn't have eyes to see like us, and can't say that. You say Allah said about Himself, Allah knows what He meant by that. ذات الله تعالى موصوفة. Sahil ibn Abdullah al-Tasatturi was asked عن ذات الله, about Allah Azza wa Jal, the essence of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he said ذات الله تعالى موصوفة بالعلم غير مدركة بالإحاطة. Allah is described having the knowledge, and nobody can encompass Allah Azza wa Jal and know all about Allah or see Allah in a place or time. ولا مرئية بالأبصار, cannot be seen with the eyesight, and it's more, and Allah Azza wa Jal exists, and in the heart of people they know Him, that He is there, and He is one, and they don't dissolve in Allah Azza wa Jal, and they don't encircle Allah. They cannot go around Allah or anything like it. And the visions see Allah Azza wa Jal in the mind, that He is in control and He is the King, but He banned the creation from knowing His essence. But He showed them about Himself by His creation. So the hearts know Allah Azza wa Jal, but the mind cannot perceive what Allah Azza wa Jal is. And the believers ينظر إليه المؤمنون بالأبصار من غير إحاطة ولا إدراك نهاية. Obviously, here is the day of judgment. You will see Allah Azza wa Jal with your eyesight, but without seeing all Allah Azza wa Jal all around you, and you can't see an end to Allah Azza wa Jal. So you just see something of Allah, whatever Allah wants to show us. And Al-Junaid said the best sentence was about Tawheed is what Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said when he said سبحان من لم يجعل لخلقه سبيلا إلى معرفته إلا بالعجز عن معرفته. So all the praise to Allah Azza wa Jal, the one who did not allow his creation to know his essence, and they will be truly believe in him when they fail to know about him. So failing to know about Allah Azza wa Jal is the true belief. If you say you know about him because blah blah blah, you're wrong. So whatever you say about the essence of Allah is wrong. When you admit I know nothing about Allah Azza wa Jal, you know Allah. So when I showed you, I think before, when Pharaoh asked Musa, قال ما ربك يا موسى قال ربي الذي أعطى كل شيء خلق السماوات والأرض وما بينهما. And then he said to the people around him, he said, you see, your messenger is mad. And why he said mad? You heard it from me? Why he said mad?
Because he asked about Mahiyat.
Yeah, the essence of Allah Azza wa Jal. And he didn't answer that. He said he's the one who creates. So I'm not asking you about what he did. I'm asking about his essence. Ma rabbuka. Ma, the essence of things. Ma hada tissue, whatever. Man hada, about his essence and about his personality. Ma, about the containers. The essence, what's made of paper, made from cotton, or made from so the rest is actually moving around the same talk about إفراد القدم عن الحدث والخروج عن الأوطان وقطع المحاب وترك معالم وجهل وأن يكون الحق سبحانه وتعالى مكان جميع. So the true monotheistic belief is say Allah has been there all the time. He's not created. It's not an incident, there were no God, nothing, then God appeared. No, he was always there. And you don't belong, you belong to Allah Azza wa Jal. Wherever you are, it happened, Allah allowed you to live here or go there, but Allah is the only one who exists at all the time, and you might or might not exist. Your existence is possible, but the existence of Allah Azza wa Jal is must. And if you dive in the monotheistic thinking, you will only get more thirsty. If you dive in the sea of the monotheistic thinking, you will only get more thirsty. علم التوحيد مباين لوجوده ووجوده مفارق لعلمه. How to explain it in English. علم التوحيد مباين لوجوده ووجوده مفارق لعلمه. So there's no ilm, there's no knowledge to tell you about the essence of Allah Azza wa Jal. You have to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal like that. And this is where the scientists now, the atheists, fall. They want us to prove to them using that science that Allah exists. But that is not going to happen, because Allah is there and He does things which to us cannot be done. Like where this matter came for the universe from. And they couldn't answer that question, but they don't want to say Allah created it from without a need for raw material. That Allah created it because He doesn't need raw material. How Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't need raw material? Because He's God. You don't have an answer to that. So are you with me? Yeah, you lost. Yeah. Al-Hussein ibn Mansur, who was al-Hallaj, he said he's mu'il al-anam wala yu'tal, means that he's the creator of the creations, and he doesn't need raw material or any, tools or any, like when some scientists thought, now we are God, now we can create things, and they heard the sound, okay, create an ant or create a frog. So it came down to the earth to take the earth, and the sound said, no, you have to create your own earth. You can't just use earth Allah created. And he said, whoever have looked into the knowledge of Tawheed, this is a Shibli said it, he can't even carry a bug, a small insect, because that would be a heavy load on him. And he said توحيد الخاصة يكون بسره ووجده وقلبه كأنه قائم بين يدي الله. The monotheistic belief of the selected top people is with the, internally, with his mind and his emotion and his heart, as if he is standing before Allah Azza wa Jal. يجري عليه تصاريف الأمور, and Allah does the things and make the things happen and move around, and he is just in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he has no power or no will or no choice or and the Tawheed, they said, is qatil ya'at. Don't say li wa bi wa minni wa ilayya. That's in English, drop the me, mine, myself, and all these drop. Only Allah exists. I don't exist. ما شم روائح التوحيد من تصور عنده التوحيد. If you know how to explain that Allah, the essence of Allah, you don't know Tawheed. He's just nothing similar to him. He's just there. And he mentioned he said, the one who has, Abu Sa'id al-Kharaz said, the one who has the right Tawheed, he will find himself is just gone. Only Allah Azza wa Jal there. This is why some Sufis used to talk about themselves, Subhani. I can't say Subhani, but he doesn't see his exist. He see that Allah Azza wa Jal only there, and he's saying Subhani. So that's kufr for some who don't know the essence of Tawheed. And Shibli said to somebody, why your Tawheed is not correct? He said, why? He said, because you're asking for it. You're trying to get to accept Allah is one, while you need to ask Allah to make you believe He is one. So Allah Azza wa Jal will give you the gift of the monotheistic belief, the Iman. Iman is like you apply to university and they accept you. It has to be from Allah to you. Can't reach Tawheed from you to Allah. But if you have the intention to believe in Allah is one, Allah will choose the time He will put it in you. And I can say when myself had that, feeling that given to me, I can say my children when I felt the switch in them. Some of my students, I feel the switch in them. Now they switched. Why they will be with me, a year, 2 years. But they switch. When they switch, yes, alhamdulillah, mu'min, believer. It goes without any further discussion. Here's some it's a bit difficult to translate. I'll leave it. I'll leave the علامة حقيقة التوحيد نسيان التوحيد وهو أن يكون القائم به واحدا. So the right sign of Tawheed, that you don't actually think about it. How is it that Allah only one? How I can prove? So Zamakhshari, I think he was in Azerbaijan, and they knew that he's famous, and where lots of people to welcome him. And an old lady, and she said, "Who is that guy? Why are people so, keen to meet him?" They said he's the Makhshari. He has 1,000 reason, proof that Allah exists. And she said if he didn't have 1,000 doubts, he wouldn't have 1,000 proof. And he said, oh Allah, give me a belief like the belief of this old lady. Just Allah is there. الرازي الرازي. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make our meeting blessed and protect us after leaving here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا